Hey guys, my name is VaulSC, hope that you're doing well. In this video I'm going to be showing you a battle report between the 100 Kingdoms and the Old Dominion. This is a game of Conquest, the last argument of kings, that wonderful tabletop, fantasy style, rank and flank game. And we'll be going to playing at 2,000 points. This is my opponent, his first game at the 2,000 point level. As far as I know, I've played many games at 2,000 points, but it is 100 Kingdoms versus Old Dominion. And we'll be playing on the scenario Breakout, which I'll talk about in a second. But yeah, this game, I'll just let you guys know, it really went the distance, pretty much all the way around down to turn 10. A lot of back and forths, a lot of things learned on both sides, plenty of action, so I think that you'll really enjoy this one. If you watch the whole thing start to finish, really great game, and I'm just really stoked about this hobby at the moment. I'm enjoying the assembling and the painting and the gaming and just the community and everything. So if you are on the fence about Conquest, I can seriously consider giving it a go. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, really appreciate it. I'm trying to do more and more content, and very soon I'll be expanding into the analysis side of it. I know you guys love that. You want to sort of hear somebody experienced talk about like all of the upgrades and the regiments and the rules, so we'll definitely be doing a bit more of that. So let's dive into the lists. So my army, I'm going to be running this Prior Command Order of the Sword using some proxy miniatures. In terms of using proxies, in fact, I'll just briefly sort of say something about this. I think that when it comes to using 3D printed miniatures for units that haven't been released and don't have an official model available, I think that's absolutely fine, and I even personally think that that should be okay in tournaments. Other people disagree with me, but look, we'll have that conversation another time. With models that are not released, if you want to proxy them by some means in casual games, nobody should ever be putting pressure on people not to do that. It's totally acceptable in my view. And after all, we spend thousands of dollars at Parabellum, and we're constantly advertising the game for them for free. So I really, that's my stance on that kind of thing. So in this game, I'll be using some 3D printed miniatures to represent stuff that's unreleased, but bear in mind, I still pay for them and buy all the other stuff that is released, and I will be using that on going forward. So just my thoughts about that kind of thing. Alright, so Priority Commander Order of the Sword. The thing about Order of the Sword is that they are sort of rare elite unit in 100 Kingdoms that have 5 wounds each, and that makes them a little bit tougher. Defense 3, Evasion 2 is also really nice. Against all that cleave, you've got Evasion 2 right there. The gimmicky thing about them is they have counterattack, which is not really a very good rule. It reflects damage on ones, so it just doesn't make a lot of difference. The interesting thing, though, is that if they start to get rerolls, the counterattacks start to pile up just a little bit. But overall, this unit isn't really about the counterattack. It's just about, synergizing with the Imperial Officer, giving them Vanguard, which is very useful, and Blessed from the Commander to actually have a really strong turn of, infantry combat, and they become quite a good scoring unit in that regard. And Evasion 2 makes them great for going up against something that's Cleave 2, 3, Smite, that kind of thing, because they can even do the rerolls on Evasion, as far as I understand. And of course, Relentless Drill, that actually gets support 2 out of this, which, when you combine the Blessed, support 2, and Vanguard, they're actually a pretty decent unit. Now, for the Commander himself, I am just going for maximum combat because he is like a combat character that is going to be seeing the front of this unit. And Combat 3 gives him Cleave 2, Clash 5, Attack 7. He's just really pumping up the damage. And this unit, they're a bit more defensive. At Clash 4, they fight very well, but only attacks 4. So they're not going to be pumping out a lot of damage, but with him at the front, he really does. Even with the Combat 3, people are going to be scared of dueling, but just in case, you want to protect your investment, I'll put a 10-point item. It's not that expensive for rerolling armor saves, and he's Defense 4, Evasion 2, so I really feel like it's kind of a fun package. Another option that I have thought about playing is where you take the Fierce Priest, and you come down to Masteries, and you take this thing, the Glimmer of Faith, which allows you to target anything with Devout, even if you can't see it. And then when you go over to the Prior Commander, what you can do is you can take this item called Mantle of Saint Nick over here, just 10 points, becomes Devout, and that allows the priest to put Blessed constantly on the Order of the Sword from across the other side of the table, or +1 defense. For example, there's a few different things the priest can do there. So yeah, +1 defense or evasion, so they could become Evasion 3. Obviously, Blessed is great for the counterattacks. Fervor, that can stop them from being broken. Divine Sanction, I don't believe works. What does Glimmer of Faith say about range self? Range self do not benefit from the mastery. There you go. So you couldn't quite do that, but I'm sure you guys sort of see in principle how to do that. Order of Ashen Dawn, just the 3 miniatures. That's what I own at the moment. I will be playing a 4-stand version of these guys, but again, probably the best unit in the game at the moment until they get nerfed. Imperial Officer, again, I'm just trying to keep the points very skimpy so I can afford all 8 regiments here. So he's just taking the movement battlefield drills and going in with this unit of Rangers who have a standard bearer, just for the maximum, carting them around, getting them onto objectives. Another unit of Rangers here, really big fan of this unit. Couldn't afford the Hunter Cadre, so it's the Rangers, Mercenary Crossmen as well. Other players use like 2 or 3 units of Crossmen instead of the Rangers because they are cheaper and they have more range, armor piercing. So overall in the meta, I think that Crossbowmen are more popular, but I only own 3. Gilded Legion, because I haven't assembled my Steel Legion yet, but Gilded Legion also extremely useful against stuff like Cataphractoi, other 100 Kingdoms players. All the impact stuff out there, the Thunder Riders, so they're not bad. And with Drill Master, 5 attacks, cleave 1. They've got the support 3 from Relentless Drill. So pretty good. Not as good as Steel Legion overall, but still really, really strong. Chapter Mage, just your boring old School of Fire, and the Blaster Mage with Focus, since that's a really good upgrade nowadays. Men-at-Arms with the Bastion, of course. No need for a banner, couldn't afford it. 5 Men-at-Arms just to keep her on an objective. These guys are really for scoring. Theus Priest is also for scoring, but he's also sort of like the ace in the hole with his Elysian Fragment, and 5 Militia just to march him up the field with Vanguard. So this is a little combo I've been using since day 1. My opponent, trying out the Manistratigos, Aventine Armor and Eternal Discipline is just really a good way of stopping them from getting killed by a lot of shooting. Scoffdung, of course, great for charging with the Cataphractoi and giving them Line Breaker. So he's quite expensive, 185 points here, but my opponent, again, limited miniatures to play with, just wants to get to 200 or 2,000 points. Cataphractoi do not have the Hetairos, so I kind of agree with that. I was doing some math recently and I worked out that even if you get shock from Tier 2, from Memories of Old, from that being a draw event, Clash 3 means that if you're going in there with like 5 Cataphractoi and like the Mount of Strategos, they're still going to miss half their attacks, right? So if your opponent has a little bit of armor left over and they block you off and like you kill 2 stands and they've got like 5 stands in the unit, you're not going to break them. So in a lot of cases, the Hetairos just isn't going to add value for 20 points. So you've got to be careful with it, and it's generally for much larger units of Cataphractoi that you want to take that. So Legionnaires, he took the Icon Bearer for some reason. Like, he showed up in my house and he's like building his list while he's sitting there at the table and wasn't even sure what to add for them. I really think that if you're going to take 5 of them, you probably should try and get up to one of these other officers. But he took the Icon Bearer. Archimandrite with all of the blasty abilities, and Toon as Bone Golems. I think Bone Golems are just excellent. I find them really hard to deal with. They've got a number of really good rules. Aura of Death from the draw event is still really useful, but it's just the Cleave 2 hardened. They are just such great late game units and good for just camping an objective and just grinding you down. Hierodeacon with some Caryatids, he's got 4 of them. I'm a big believer in taking 1 Caryatids unit, like no more, no less, in your Old Dominions list, because they're great at just firing over top of your Legionnaires, and once you get to Tier 2, the Memories of Old just really kicks in and becomes very powerful on this unit, and such massive range as well. But if you take multiple units of them, then you start to lose out on your early lines, and you're not going to get to Tier 2 as quickly because all of your stuff's going to be at the back of the table not dying. So yeah, I like 1 unit. Going over to the mission here, the Breakout mission. I've never played this one before, but it's interesting because in the early game and the late game, you get more points for the side objectives, but in the mid game, you get more from the middle one. But you can't actually start scoring until you've killed the enemy objective, which is blocking on it. So you've got to get a unit up there to destroy it. So it's 3 for each objective marker, then 2 for every zone you're getting every round, but a bonus of 1 for every 2 zones. 2 for the enemy warlord, and then there's a bonus point for the side ones early on and late, and then there's a bonus 2 in the mid game. So we went through all of these rules. All of these rules came into play in a big way in this particular game. So let us just jump into it now. Okay, where is my stack of images for this? here we are here. Okay, so my opponent, running a really funny looking Hierodeacon for this, he's decided to just bash together a few spare models he had. He doesn't really like the actual Hierodeacon model, but this one was, you know, kind of comical. And then the table setup. I'm just going to quickly go to my desktop and grab myself my little ink pen here. If you guys haven't tried it, G-Ink is actually quite useful for making these bat reps, because you can just draw all over the table like this. So this is the terrain setup. Just so you guys know, this river here is just water. So if you fight in it, you're -1 clash. The forests, I always, when you play at my house, you can never use the rule that damages things from moving through forests. I think that's the dumbest rule for tabletop war games ever. So we don't do that. The forests, you know, reduce barrage when you're firing through them, and they turn off impact hits and inspired for mediums and heavies, etc. You do have one sort of impassable bit here. Houses are also impassable, so there's 4 of them. A couple of them are like dead on the side of the table. This is just, you know, cosmetic. You can walk over it. Same with all of these fences and stuff like this. So you can move just directly through here as if it's like a straight sort of thing. Cool. Let me grab another color just to be fun. So there's going to be a zone here, and a zone here. And what you're going to do is I've got to kill this objective here. My opponent's going to kill this one before this middle one here opens up. At the start of the game, I have 4 light units. So there's my rangers, there's my other rangers with the Imperial Officer in them, and then there's the militia with these guys, and there's also the mercenaries. Both of us rolled abysmally turn 1 to pretty much, you know, get nothing else other than our normal picks on. So there's my cards there. By the way, I've been using Midjourney to create these myself, and Photoshop, of course. So they're looking pretty fun. So my card stack looks like this. This is all I have to begin with. The mercenaries and 1 unit of rangers with the officer. So he brings on his carries. That's the only unit he has. And then I bring on my mercenaries. Here we're both going for the middle objective to just shoot them down so we can start scoring. Officer going for the right-hand side just to double march on there and start scoring as well, since the side objectives are worth quite a bit in the early game. Sorry, hiccups. Okay, moving straight into turn 2. No points scored initially in turn 1, so I've now got the priest, which is light, the rangers, which is light. This is the second rangers unit. I've got the Order of the Sword and the men-at-arms, and again, rolling pretty poorly for these, so I only got a few more units showing up. So the Order of the Sword are not here yet. It's going to be Officer, Mercenaries, Men-at-Arms, Mage, and then Rangers. And that's sort of a view after turn 1 has been done. So the carriers move up and they shoot a few of their silly magic missiles into this objective, causing 1 point of damage to it. My mercenaries do the same to the objective on my side. I was briefly considering shooting at his carries, but you know, with their their loose formation, just be doing hardly any damage. And I do have to actually destroy that objective on my side eventually, so it's the right play. Creatids moving through, and they just don't have enough speed to move and shoot in this very first activation. They're going to need to get a bit closer, but they are very scary. They're only volley 2, but once they start getting in range of things and they can start aiming and volleying and getting their barrage up from Memories of Old Tier 2, they're very, very dangerous. So Men-at-Arms just marching through here. They have Vanguard. They're going to be going directly for those carries. My hope here is that he's going to be stuck shooting his own objective for the next 2 turns, allowing the Men-at-Arms to move up and eventually get into combat and start scoring from the middle. So because my opponent's been rolling very poorly for a lot of his units coming on, he doesn't have a lot of flank, which is where you can bring on units automatically. I'll have a chance to really get a lot of field presence there in the mid-game and the early game. So the officer just double marching up here, just so he's barely within range of that center objective. 4.5 inches away is the radius, and he's the only medium unit in this regiment. The rest are light rangers. So, moving into the next turn. This is turn 3. I have the opportunity to roll for Order of the Sword, Gilded Legion, Ashen Dawn, Militia, and Rangers. So I get the lights on. And then I believe Ashen Dawn and Gilded Legion show up, but not Order of the Sword, as from what I can recall, even though they're mediums. So yeah, this is how it looks. This is the start of turn 3. We are going to begin with the militia, just so they can shoot at the objective and then move back out of range of the creatids. Then just a whole lot of, archers and stuff and characters in between, and going with the mage and the men-at-arms towards the end, because I don't want to walk into range of anything. I want them to activate last to move the mage into range to get a spell off, and the Gilded Legion just have to be the last card here. It's so crucial that they are last, because I need to see where my opponent deploys his cavalry so I can counter-deploy them with the Gilded Legion. That cavalry unit is pretty much the only enemy unit the Gilded Legion really counters well. So, again, just important that they come last. And it's also probably important that I lose the Supremacy roll, just so I have like, that card activates later than his ones do. So this is the end of turn 3, if I recall correctly, or is it turn 2? Yeah, end of turn 2. So I'm getting a few points from the zone to the side there, because the officer is in range of it, and I think there's a bonus point for collecting one of the side objectives in the first turn, so I should be on 3, because turns 1 to 4 you gain an additional 1 additional VP. So that's how that works. Alright, so activating first, the crossbowmen shoot at the objective. They do another point of damage. You can barely see it past the trees there, but then they pull back. The hilarious looking dummy Palanquin Hierodeacon shows up. This is the unit that has Optio, I think. When my opponent texted me his list, he didn't actually put the Standard Bearer in there, because he was 10 points short, and I just decided to put it in there for him. But anyway, he's got the Optio in there, so they at least come up the right-hand flank here towards that objective, and they can at least contest that and score it. So there you can see that they've just rocked up here, and they should be able to move on to the objective next turn. Over here, my other unit, the Rangers, heading towards them, and the Rangers are quite slippery, really. If they get threatened, they can liquid formation, turn around, shoot backwards, and then move 6 inches away. So they can also use the river as a bit of cover there from things wanting to charge them. We'll have less clash going through that, so they can. They've vanguarded up here, but next turn they can start firing arrows into those legionnaires. On this side, again, just being very cautious. The Caryatids sort of turning around a little bit here. Well, not turning around, but my archers just hanging back and getting a few shots, but I think I was out of range ultimately there. So over here, yeah, so actually the character does move forward. The Rangers do shoot a few shots. They have been damaged here by the Caryatids, so that's how I've lost the stand. They shoot back and they inflict a couple of wounds, which is quite important because the mage can actually clip them later and finish off a stand. And one entire stand of Caryatids really does help. Like, in the long run, if they're going to be shooting every turn, taking out one stand early really makes your life less painful later on. So over here, the men-at-arms do move up. No, this is the photo where the Keres move up and do more damage to the objective. They've got one more turn to kill it off, but for now, the objective is unavailable. Over here, the Knights moving through, they're not Knights, they're the Cataphractoi moving through with, of course, the leader here. So that's good for me because it means that I can now counter-deploy my Gilded Legion on this side of the table. If I win Supremacy next turn, the officer can actually turn around with liquid formation on the Rangers and run away, but I have to win the roll for that. But I'm okay with it because if I do get charged, then the Gilded Legion should be able to counter-charge, and then I can fight for this objective quite handily. On the extreme left, seeing he's put his Hierodeacon and spread out there, I'm just going to try and bully him with this unit of Militia. Militia plus Priest plus Rangers should beat 3 Legionnaires and a Hierodeacon. Legionnaires are very weak in the long run. They're not very good at fighting, and they have to sort of have their draw event to get Phalanx up. So if I can get any activations to attack them before that, they'll lose a lot of stands there, and I'll hopefully be able to kill him and actually take the side objective for my own. So yeah, you can see here the Hierodeacon just using Dark Shepherd to give himself some more dark power. I should really be taking photos of the dark power pool, by the way. So it removes the stand, but the Archimandrite can show up later on and heal that back. Over here, the Knights of the Ashen Dawn, I thought about it, and I really would like them in the center of the table, because the middle objective is going to be important by the time these guys get into combat. But, you know, the Caryatids are also a real problem, because they're armor-piercing too. So that's sort of like the one thing that actually counters Ashen Dawn is the Caryatids. And I'm feeling like maybe I shouldn't have actually put them here. They might have been better on the right-hand side, you know, following up the Gilded Legion. But putting the Gilded Legion and the Ashen Dawn in the same place just didn't seem right to me. Like, so that's too much of a traffic jam. So Ultimately, it's okay to put them here, but they have to stay back beyond the range of the Creatids for a while. So that's the thinking. Archimandrite moving onto the board and is able to... by the way, the bridge counts as something you can move directly through and over without any penalty, but you can't end stance on it. So the Archimandrite moves up and has line of sight through to the Legionnaires there, and can bring back one stand with his healing spell. Over here, the Men-at-Arms move forward. Now this is a really clever little play I managed to get away with here. So I've managed to wrangle it so that the mage is just about 5 inches away from this, and the radius of it, 4.5, for scoring, sort of looks like this. So the mage is just barely within range of it, and getting the secondary stand in as well is also important, because the mage is light and this guy is medium. So with a medium unit in stand of it, that's great. She's also within half range of her gun to shoot that, and these guys have sort of pulled back a bit now. So she can volley because she's got barrage, and she gets a couple of hits on it, allowing me to destroy that, which would allow me to score really early here with these guys, because they're actually not in range, they're not contesting, even though I've drawn the sort of the area a little bit weird. Unluckily though, my opponent my opponent passed both of the armor saves on the objective, so I didn't get away with this play. It would have been a great play though. So over here, Archimandrite healing back some Legionnaires over the... you can almost hear the sound of the water sort of rushing past. It's a very scenic bit of terrain. Now, over here, so this is the mage. She has failed in her attempt to gun down that objective, so she's firing a fireball, and the fireball sails across the battlefield and smacks into the Creatids, taking out one of the stands. Or did it? I can't remember. I think that happened a little bit later. I can see that they've got 3 wounds remaining there because of the Rangers. So it must have been a different activation that the mage took that out. I do remember killing one of the stands though. Also, he's just showing up here with the Bone Golems in behind the Creatids, and the Bone Golems are the same size as the Creatids, so once they overtake them, they may cause some line of sight blockage problems. So if you're an OD player, you've got to be careful about that, because the Creatids can see only over the size 1 infantry. Alright, so Gilded Legion marching up very quickly with Vanguard. The more I play this game, the more I appreciate how important Vanguard is, and if you're a new player, it's hard to understand why, you know, you want your supremacy ability to just be like 1 free move at the start of, you know, everything coming on, but it's actually one of the best supremacies in the game. Getting position for the mid-game fights that are important it's just so crucial. So they've moved up, which means that if he does attack my Rangers with his knights, then he could be in a bit of trouble here. So that helps to protect my commander there, my warlord. His other unit of Bone Golems now show up and just ending up right behind the knights here, and he's really making a big push for this flank. Which means that, you know, that's actually kind of good for me, because he's got a couple of really big expensive units there against me, and I can sort of pull back a bit and focus on other parts of the battlefield, so it's not terrible. So moving into this next turn here, Gilded Legion going absolutely last, because I can't afford to them to not have an activation. I want them to be able to attack whatever moves onto the objective that they are in front of, so... Having more cards than my opponent is good here. If he had more cards than me, then that would be a problem, because they'd be forced to sort of try and just move somewhere and contest the objective and then get attacked. And if they get attacked by the Bone Golems, that's really not good. They do fend off the Knights, the Cataphractoi pretty well, but not the Golems. The first card in my stack is the Rangers. That allows me to actually liquid formation on my Imperial Officer, turn them around and run them away. So I need to win the roll for that to happen. And then everything else in between, you know, it's Mercenaries, Order of the Sword guys, Officer, the Men-at-Arms, the Mage, the Rangers, the Militia, the Priest, the Ashen Dawn, the Gilded Legion. So we'll just play it through. This, I believe, is turn 4. So at the moment, we have the Imperial Officer is capping some points on the right-hand side, and the Priest is about to move up to cap the other side, so I should get a bundle of points there. The Mercenaries can easily kill this objective off, and if I move the Men-at-Arms forward, they may be able to actually win that objective over top of these guys. He it's possible that he could commit these through to the center, but I don't think he really wants to do that with the Ashen Dawn ready to go. Plus, I can always get their men-at-arms in the way of what he's trying to do there. On this side, the Imperial Officer is going to want to come back, and then these guys are just going to want to tie up this group for as long as they can. This group here is just so powerful that they will crush this whole flank eventually, but if I can get all the scoring done elsewhere, that's great, because I'm winning over here, but losing on the right-hand flank. But in the middle, it looks like I'm going to be okay for a little while until he starts like souping up his spells and his dark power. So feeling good about the game. Alright, so win the roll, and the Warlord just marches out of the way, which is great because I can spend the rest of the game shooting over top of the Gilded Legion now. So that's actually a really important play. I don't think my opponent was going to activate those Bone Golems first anyway, so I don't think it was too important that I won the roll, but it's still pretty crucial for me to get this play off. It saves me losing points for the Warlord straight away, and having those extra shooters later is great. Plus they can rush in and contest an objective later. That's so useful. Alright, so yeah, so the Bone Golems do move forward. Yeah, so they probably would have attacked the Warlord, so very good that I won the roll. But now it means that the Gilded Legion won't really be able to charge them. They're just hanging at the back of this objective here. The Mercenary Crossbowmen moving up and deleting that objective, so that nets me 3 points and allows the Men-at-Arms to move on to the zone. Now, this is an important moment in the game. His Hierodeacon has the opportunity to march into range of that objective and contest it or score it, but it will put him in very close range of my Theist Priest and my Militia and my Rangers, so he's just hanging back out of the way, casting his spell to get more dark power, and the Legionnaires are coming back from being healed. But it opens up the objective to me, which allows me a lot of points. So we'll talk about that later, but this is actually quite an important crossroads in the battlefield. Like, do you sacrifice these guys? If you do, then it just means I'm going to be scoring later anyway, but there's an important turn where I can't get all the bonuses. So there is that. Now this unit here is, these guys have been 3D printed. They're Chaos Warriors. They are representing the Order of the Sword. Spent a lot of time and money on these guys. Quite happy with them. They are really brutal and rugged, and they remind me of my Warhammer Fantasy days when I used to play a lot of Warriors of Chaos. Here's a slightly different photo of them where you can see the Priory Commander, Order of the Sword, sort of in his vampire bone sort of armor. And that, my friends, is what I call a character stand. That is also a 3D printed, like, little sort of dungeon tile set there, which just represents his base. I'm going to get a few more of those, especially when I start playing Dwegum. And, yeah, this is, like, suitable for a combat commander if I've ever seen one. I'll get some better quality photos of these guys later on, and I'm also going to paint them up a little bit differently from this. But for now, they are battle ready. So Creatid's moving forward again, just trying to get a little bit more damage here onto those Ashen Dawn. And so far, he's managed to get a few hits onto them. And, yeah, that's kind of painful. Like, if he gets too many shots on them, then he'll eventually end up, you know, stopping them from doing damage in combat, which is not great. Over here, we have the Legionnaires sort of being revived by various people and just using, you know, phalanx to stop the shooting from hurting them too much. And at this stage, we've got the militia, sorry, the men-at-arms, not wanting to charge the carries just yet. I'm just double marching here onto the objective just to make sure that they are going to be scoring, because it's going to be 5 medium stands to 4 lights, and it gets the mage in range of the Creatids to get the fireball off, and that's how she knocks off the stand. So if you see in this photo, you can see those 1s and 2s in the distance signifying my hits onto the Creatids, which does remove a stand. So crucial. It means that I'm only going to be up against those 3 rather than 4 for the rest of the game. It's a big deal. Okay, so he's got a group of 5 Legionnaires who are showing up late. They're coming in behind the Creatids. They're just, oh, sorry, the Creatids and the Keres, I should say. And they're just a bit too late to contest that middle zone. They'll get there eventually, but just a bit too slow. And they are not really providing all of their dark power from being killed immediately. So this is the kind of unit that you really want, like, right up the front, like, doing damage and getting killed, like, in the first few turns if you can. But better late than never. Over here, the Bone Golems have moved in front of the Creatids, and yeah, again, this is not great for line of sight purposes. The Creatids need to be able to shoot past them, so it gives me an opportunity to maybe move the Ashen Dawn into the middle of the table, but again, Happy to keep the Ashen Dawn just back for a little bit, wait for the combats to be committed a bit more, and then commit them, like move them into combat when they're not going to get charged so much, is perhaps the thinking. Alright, so here comes the play. The militia double march up. They are in range of the objective now. The legionnaires are not in range of that objective, so I am going to score with just the medium Theus Priest stand. And I can also cast Holy Fire onto the legionnaires as well at this point. So, pretty strong scoring turn coming up. Archimandrite not really able to do anything here, just hanging back, trying to put the healing onto the other legionnaires to the right. Theus Priest, of course, activating, casting Holy Fire onto the legionaries, or whatever he was trying to do, maybe Blessed or just something there, but not achieving a hell of a lot. And on this side, he just really doesn't want to move his cataphracts, because if they go into the middle here, then they get in the way of everything else. And if they go over through the left, they're going to be terrible against the Gilded Legion, because Gilded Legion have pipe formation. They shut down impact hits, and that's what this unit's all about. So yeah, just not really a great position for them. Kind of like not very well played here for these mounted troops. And then we have the Ashen Dawn just pulling back like 2 inches. I'm happy for this game to go in the long game, because this turn I'm going to be scoring from all 3 objectives, it looks like. And my opponent is going to fall way behind in points. So I'm happy to just leave the big stuff out of the battle for a bit and just try to come in at the last moment and start contesting objectives when my opponent can least afford for me to do that. Alright, so carriers have activated. Archimandrite trying to get some healing. Can't remember what he's doing over there. Yeah, just not really in range to affect the battle very much. Because the Bone Golems have activated already, as far as I can recall, the Gilded Legion charge up here, and they're just trying to get all 6 stands in range of the objective, and the Bone Golems can't contest that because they only count as 1 each. So, although these guys are going to get killed pretty soon, getting the points makes it worth it. So, looking at this bit of paper here, I have got, if you look, turn 1 you get nothing. Turn 2, I got 3 because I had the Imperial Officer on the right-hand flank zone, and you get a bonus 1 for having one of the side ones. Then the next turn, I picked up another 3 for also having, that zone contested by the Imperial Officer. Then I managed to get... No, the officer ran off, and the Theus Priest went onto the objective for turn 3, I believe it was. Then turn 4... we both get another 3 points for killing the objective in the middle. So that takes me up to 9. So the other 8 points comes from effectively this situation, where if I just sort of show it to you with this pen, there's a zone there, and I've got like all 5 medium guys in there, and he's just contesting with 3 lights. So I've got that one. Over here I've got these 6 medium stands up against his 3 heavies, so I've got this one as well. And I've got the Theus Priest there, and he's decided not to move in range to contest that. So you can sort of see how bad it is that he hasn't really delayed me any time there. It gives me 2 points for this, 2 points for this, 2 points for this. You get a bonus 1 for having more than 1, which I definitely do, and a bonus 1 for having the side. I feel like I may have even had a bonus 1 that I didn't write down. At the end of rounds 1 to 4, gain 1 additional VPs for seizing the objective zones, plural. So the way I read that is that even if you have both zones, you still only get +1. That's my thoughts on it anyway. So I think we've calculated this correctly. I go up to 17, he stays at 3. Then we move into turn 5, which is where the middle zone is going to yield more points. So with that in mind, Gilded Legion have to go first, because that helps them to avoid being charged by the Bone Golems. So if I charge, I'm not going to take Aura of Death. They're going to pump out like 24 attacks or something crazy, and that might allow me to actually chop one of them down, meaning I could possibly win the fight in the long run. Ashen Dawn have to go last because they just don't want to get shot. If they move out before the creators shoot, then they could be in trouble. Everything else, we'll just play through it normally. It's Men-at-Arms, Mercenaries, Theus Priest, Militia, Officer, Order of the Sword, Rangers. So yep, that's the end of turn 4 right there, and we're on to turn 5 now. So I lose the roll. The Bone Golems rush in here, the Pike Formation turns off the impact hits, and then they whack me with their cleave. So this ends up not doing that much damage to me, but I will take Aura of Death after this, which is kind of painful. So these guys, they initially lose a stand and take a few more wounds there from the Bone Golems, whacking them, and then when they activate here with their own card, they swipe at the Golems, do a little bit of damage, but overall, the Aura of Death just chops them down. So Archimandrite activating over here, trying to get some sort of spell off. Can't remember what he was actually doing, possibly just a glamour photo. I then charge his Keres with my Men-at-Arms, wanting to clear these guys out before they get too dangerous at tier 3, so just rushing in and I think killing off one stand. But more importantly, stopping him from moving everything in to contest the objectives. So because the objective's at the back here, the radius is now encompassing all of my guys, but not really all of his stands. So that should allow me to continue scoring, which is really important. So these guys are knocked down to just 2 stands left after the fireball from the mage hits them. On this side, my opponent desperately trying to contest here. So the Higher Deacon plus the 2 remaining stands of Legionnaires marching in and charging me. So with 3 of his stands contesting my 1 priest, this will stop me from scoring, but the thing is, though, that I will now be able to activate my militia using Elysian Fragment with Smite and Blessed, and that should hopefully chop these guys down. Over here, I've activated my mercenaries, and the plan is to really prevent this unit from charging in to these guys. This is the Supremacy turn, so the Strategos is used as Supremacy ability. I don't really want him to somehow reform and then charge into the flank of those Men-at-Arms, so I'm just going to sacrifice this unit here. It also means that potentially he could be coming in as follows. So if I grab this, if he charges around here, wrong pen, charges through like that, the Bone Golems will be set up in a line like that, exposing his flank, and then the Ashen Dawn could potentially charge in through the side and just pick up the side like this. And that allows me to just sort of crunch them in the mid-game. They will get shot off by these Caryatids in the long run, but if I can just hold these 2 units into this little combat for another couple of turns, it's going to allow this unit to actually succeed and keep scoring, and the Order of the Order of the Sword to come through to reinforce the Ashen Dawn later. So over here, the priest and the militia just wailing away at this guy and just bashing him in the face with Smite. Got a couple of photos here before we wreck them, and then over on this side, the Keres is trying to do a bit of damage back to the Men-at-Arms without really affecting them too much, unfortunately. The militia have crushed the Legionnaires. Now I'm going to be able to continue scoring pretty much for the rest of the game on this side of the board, which is big. I'm already way ahead in points, but eventually I'll lose some of my other positions, so quite important that we sort of maintain this. Over here, the fireball from the mage. People keep asking me where this model is from here, this captain model here. So this is a Household Guard miniature with the torso and the legs from the Household Guard model, and the arms are from the Imperial Officer, and the head is the alternate head that you get from the St. George and the Dragon Founders exclusive. So you have to have quite a few different resin kits to build this guy, but I've managed to kit bash him anyway. Okay, the Rangers moving up down the river, pouring a couple of shots into those Legionnaires who have sort of repositioned to move towards the Theist Priest. But how quick are they going to be able to get there? They do need to get over there to contest, but I've got 2 units to his 1. Over here, the other unit of Legionaries now charges through into the Men-at-Arms. I do have Bastion up, so these guys don't do very much damage at all, but they are threatening to eventually bowl me over and get into that middle objective. But luckily, the bravery, really, of the Men-at-Arms has kept these guys away from scoring range, so I can still reap the benefits of the mid of the table. So he does choose to charge the mercenary crossbowmen with his bone golems here, and he does wipe them out very handily, but because it's the Strategos' turn, he can reform them after whacking me, so that allows him to sort of come into a position like this where he's still quite a long way away from the Ashen Dawn, and he won't get charged in the flank now. So quite a good position for them to be in. On this side, I'm moving back around with the Warlord and the Rangers, and they can now shoot over top of the Gilded Legion to get a few shots into combat. Eventually just picking away at them, and he can't really follow me across the side of the board, because if he moves off the objective, then he won't get to score with those bone golems. So here we are, the Caryatids moving around and firing a few shots into the flank of the Men-at-Arms, which is quite painful because they're armor piercing too, so that's doing even more damage to the men-at-arms. They don't get a chance to aim though, so most of their shots miss, but a little bit of damage done through the middle to the men-at-arms. Again, the Rangers, as I mentioned before, get their shots off onto the Archimandrite's Legionnaires before they cross the ford. They ford the river. Now, my opponent, I helped my opponent out here, and I just mentioned to him, rather than running away into the middle of the table, these guys could actually just move in here, because if he doesn't do that, then I'm actually preventing any scoring, because the Gilded Legion are worth the same as the Bone Golems for the purposes of scoring the zone. You can sort of see this marker underneath their trays. That's the middle of the objective, so he has to move directly behind the Bone Golems and just wait for a couple of turns, because otherwise he can't pick up the points at the end of this turn. This is the Order of the Sword. They're moving a bit closer here, and that's setting up a position where if the Bone Golems charge into the front of them, again, I'll have Blessed next turn for the Supremacy turn, and then the Ashen Dawn can charge them in the flank. So I'm just trying to set up a position that he can't really sort of get the better of me. So there it is there. Ashen Dawn come in right here, and if I win the Supremacy roll, the Ashen Dawn will charge the Bone Golems. If I lose it, then hopefully I'll tank the hits from the Bone Golems, and the Order of the Sword will charge him in the flank, and eventually I'll be able to crush them and move the Ashen Dawn through to take out the Creatids and win the game. So, very happy with the positioning there. Moving on to the next turn, Ashen Dawn is the first card because I want to win that roll to charge the Bone Golems. Gilded Legion are the last card because if I activate them first, it's going to mean that they trigger Aura of Death, and they probably will just die, and it makes it easier for his Bone Golems to kill them and then charge the Rangers behind them. Men-at-Arms coming in second there, just trying to get more damage off before they get killed. Everything else is in between. So that's the end of turn 5, and a couple of important points here. Over here I'm scoring, so I've got like 2 points there. I'm not getting the bonus anymore. Over here, he's scoring, so he's getting a couple of points. Again, no bonus. But on this spot here, I've got all of my medium infantry there, which are just coming off the side of the board, plus a couple of points there. So I can actually score the 2 points from the middle, plus the bonus points. The bonus points, round 5 to 8, 2 additional VPs. So that's actually quite important. But the Bone Golems win the roll, and they charge the Knights of the Ashen Dawn, and they kill one stand. But again, Blessed is pretty strong. So Resolve 5 managing to stave off the worst of it, and we're tanking. So there they are there. One guy's got like 1 wound left. Over here, the Creatids moving in to shoot at the Men-at-Arms, and unfortunately, this is going to mean that the Men-at-Arms are going to be taking a bunch of damage, and I think I actually lose them at this point, which is bad, because now he can break through and charge my Order of the Sword with his Legionnaires. Over here, the Rangers move in the way of the Archimandrite. This is crucial, because it means that he can't actually get in range to score. Like I have to like keep the points flowing at this point, because after we reach the end game, I'm going to get absolutely hammered, and he's going to start scoring like tons of points. So this guy's getting in the way and shooting point blank to do a bit of damage to the Legionnaires. Over here, so he goes with the 5-stand group of guys. They rush into the Order of the Sword. I made the mistake, I think, of putting these guys a little bit too late in the stack. Having said that, if I just charged the Bone Golems from this position, his Legionnaires would have got in the flank, which might not have been great for the Order of the Sword here. So, Order of the Sword can beat the Legionnaires in the long run, but now it prevents me from charging the Bone Golems. I needed to get into the Bone Golems because the Priory Commander on foot has Cleave 2, and that's what would have really helped me against those monstrosities. So the Archimandrite, I think, trying to revive a few points of Legionnaires here. He's got like three wounds left from the last stand. Over here, the priest unfortunately moves around and is just getting in range to Holy Fire the Legionnaires at this point, while still carefully staying in range of that objective. You can see there that the 4.5-inch magic radius there allows me to still pick up the points, which is just crucial. So now that the Gilded Legion is going to be dealt with, he does turn around with his Cataphractoi and just faces a different direction so he can potentially get into the midfield later on. Over here, the Warlord just rushing in here behind the Gilded Legion. The thought at the time was to make this really brutal play where if his Cataphractoi move away, then the 3 stands here will contest the Bone Golems, stopping him from getting another 2 points. The mistake here, of course, is that I just completely forgotten that the Gilded Legion haven't activated yet, and neither have the Golems. So this is an absolutely massive blunder. if I just held back, I could have just shot at the bone golems for the rest of the game, or I could actually have moved these guys through to the middle of the table and done some shooting elsewhere, because these bone golems, they are stuck. They literally cannot move off the objective, otherwise my opponent isn't getting any more points from that side of the table. So if I'd processed all of that correctly, I would have been in a much better position. But this is me throwing the game here, just blundering my guys into a position they shouldn't be in. But lesson learned, just don't do this. Okay, so the Legionnaires charging the priest, but again, there's only one stand, so they're just not really able to get much damage done here. And then, although he reduces me to like one stand left, I'm able to attack back with the priest later on and deal with them. The carriers coming into the flank of the Order of the Sword, the Chaos Warriors here, so there's only one stand left. There's very limited damage they can do, but it is kind of annoying that I have to divert some attacks onto them. The way that we want to do this is that we want to have like one stand at the back here, divert its attacks onto this. The other two are using Relentless Drill support attacks, and then the ones in the front are attacking directly into the Legionnaires. So, my turn, the Order of the Sword just go ham. They are just hacking and slashing and wailing on these Legionnaires, reducing them to just 2 stands. And the carriers have like 1 wound left remaining. These elite infantry doing quite well here in the forest. The Gilded Legion activating, taking a bunch of Aura Death hits and almost dying. And then, of course, they can get totally brutalized and mauled by the Bone Golems. So the Bone Golems just charge in here and pick up 3 points for killing my Warlord and just waste the Rangers as well. So just a stupid play from me, you know. Lesson learned. Moving to the next turn. So I've got a unit of Rangers first. They are there to make sure that the Archimandrite dies. And the other Rangers, yeah, that's the Rangers that are about to get killed by the Bone Golems, I should say. So that's the shot before we start the turn, is that there's a massive scrum in the middle of the table. My opponent somehow managed to contest me, I think, at one point by having the Kerries and the 2 Legionnaires. We had to look up the rules to find out whether broken regiments contest, and we couldn't see anything stopping them from doing that. If you're broken, you can't seize an objective, but it doesn't say you can't contest an objective. So if that's wrong, please leave me a note in the comments section. But I believe that stopped me from getting the points in the middle. But as it happens, first turn, the Legionnaires are getting blasted by these Rangers who just light them up. They've only got like 3 wounds left, so these guys are getting absolutely obliterated before they can kill the militia. And this is crucial, because if he'd had a chance to kill the militia now, that might have prevented me from scoring for the rest of the game, because that priest is the only medium unit that I have. So very, very close game. Creatids now have an opportunity to move through, but the Bone Golems are blocking their line of sight to the Ashen Dawn, so they have to shoot at something else. So they're just moving around, getting a few pot shots at the Order of the Sword, who have like evasion, so not too much damage. Over here, this one legendary Knight of the Ashen Dawn, just holding the line against 2 Bone Golems now. It's just coming down to the wire. He's taken 1 wound, and just trying to make sure that they stay out of the way of everybody else. Over here, Order of the Sword, with their horned helmets, are just absolutely whacking and bashing onto these guys here, pretty much removing just about everybody, so that clears them all out. And they're victorious. They've got like 4 stands left, plus the Order of the Prior Commander. So they can now just win the game with controlling that objective or charging the Bone Golems on their side. But of course, he has these 4 Cataphractoi over there, and what my opponent decides to do is he decides to go for the long bomb. We march his full distance and then uses the march charge distance to get across there. The priest just getting out the hang on a dodge, reforming and running away just to try and put some distance between him and the Creatids who are trying to snipe the militia to stop me from scoring. And then here comes the long bomb. So he does manage to roll successfully the dice to get into combat. The impact hits don't do that much damage, but yeah, these guys will be annoying to remove, and there's like 4 stands of them here to contest that objective. So this is again going to stop me from picking up a lot of points from that area. So it comes down to a challenge. My fully kitted commander here is dueling his Warlord. And because I've already lost one Warlord, I can't lose a second one. But if he loses his second one, it's going to put him out of reach of winning the game. So the duel commences. I've got like 7 attacks, which all hit at Clash 5. And then Cleave 2. And my opponent just passes just enough to survive with 1 wound left. And then when he attacks me, I survive with like 1 or 2 wounds left as well. So after this, I really feel like he will not be accepting any more duels. So there you are, a better shot of the Strategos against the Priority Commander on foot. And then we can move into the next turn. So my first card is going to be the Priority Commander because I want to finish off his Warlord. That's quite crucial, but I realized that, you know, later he could have just dueled that, so declined it. So really, that's probably the wrong card to pick. So you have here, this is the state of play. The Priest is still scoring, the Bone Golems are scoring to the right, and the middle one is contested. So, over here, he's activating his Cataphractoi, and this is where the game sort of fell apart for me, almost, because I experienced one of the worst rolls that I've ever had in my career as a Conquest player, where the Cataphractoi do a clash action on the Order of the Sword, absolutely spiked the hit rolls, and then I absolutely failed almost all of them, and then failed all the resolve checks as well, which wipes out this unit. So I was just really frustrated that the dice could just swing so crazily in one direction here, because I have an opportunity to duel his character. I can attack with Cleave 1 and Cleave 2 from my character, and really do a lot of damage to these guys, and just hold the line to maybe just keep scoring for a bit longer. It didn't happen though. Got absolutely wiped out by this Cataphractoi just due to the dice. It was nothing else than that. It was just an absolute like spike to roll to hit. Failed them all, failed all the armor saves, failed all the resolve checks, and then that's game. Well, not game, that's the situation done. Bone Golem just fending off this one Knight of the Ashen Dawn who eventually succumbs to the aggression of the Bone Golem. I mean, we're talking about late game. He's in tier 3 at this point. He's doing a ton of damage, and the Inerexible Assault getting the better of me. So the Caryatids realize that if they need to win this game, they're going to have to track down that last stand of militia with the Theist Priest, who is contesting and controlling that objective. But they can't quite get there. They're too far away, so they're marching as fast as they can. Maybe next turn they'll be in range. So over here, the Priest just turning around, just staying right at the back of the, like, just towing that objective, just to hold on for the last moment. So for me, Ashen Dawn first, Theist Priest to put the defense on top of the militia in case I get shot. But then I rearranged my cards. I decided to put the Ranger first instead after taking that photo, because the Rangers can now march up here to get in the way of the Caryatids. So the Caryatids will get one chance to shoot me, and then I can possibly tie them up in close combat in the final turn, turn 10. So that's why they're activating first. So he then charges through with his Cataphractoi. I have deliberately put my guys all inside the forest, so this blocks all of the impact hits. So now I've created an obstacle, making it harder for his Caryatids to get around to my Priest. So they're trying for it, though. They march as fast as they possibly can, and they do the shots. The Priest has already put up +1 defense from his spell, and I managed to pass, like, saving all ones, I managed to pass a couple of ones, and the unit was left alive with, like, 1 wound left. So, what a game. What a game. I mean, it turns out to be a situation where Old Dominion can get another 6 points on turn 10 to get up to 30. So, another 5 points on turn 10 to get up to 32. Because the Caryatids are still contesting the middle, and the Bone Golems have still got the far side. So, you get +1 point at the end of the game. Turns 9 and 10 will swung back to for an additional point. So, he ends on 32. So we'd realised at that point that he couldn't even sort of overtake me at that point. I'd pretty much won the game a couple of turns ago, but I end up going to a score of 36 to his 32 at the end there. But, wow, I cannot believe it was so close. If you look at the scoreline, you're going from me, you know, being ahead by a margin of 26-7 to him coming back to within 3 points of it. So, a bunch of things really could have swung that game. I mean, you look at that situation where the Hierodeacon could have contested the objective with the Theist Priest earlier on in the game. That could have cost me 3 points. You looked at that situation where I managed to win the Supremacy roll to hit the Archimandrites group with my Rangers, stopping him from actually blowing up my militia. That sort of won the game right there. Otherwise, I probably would have lost. but also that play with my Warlord. Like, if I had not committed the Warlord into the Bone Golems and just lost them unnecessarily, I could have just been shooting through the middle section. I could have just been shooting at the Bone Golems, or I could have just waited and waited and waited and waited, and then on turn 10, just move them in to contest the Bone Golems and deny him 3 points. There were a number of ways I could have won. You also have to sort of look at the fact that if the Order of the Sword hadn't completely rolled all fails and all fails on the resolve, they would still be fighting there in turn 10, possibly even beating the Cataphractoi after a while. Probably not beating them, but at least preventing scoring for some time. So there are a few ways it could have swung both ways. I was really happy with how I played, except for the Rangers there and the Warlord towards the end. My opponent, no doubt, can learn a few things to do with positioning and where to bring units on from, but this was a fantastic game. We both learned a lot, had a lot of fun. It went the full distance. Just 2.5 hours of fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed the bat rep. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you want to see some more of this, and hit me up on Discord. The link is down below.